Hi, I'm Michael Young, and welcome to the Consumer Guide to Home Theater. You know, we never tire of going to the movies to see the latest blockbuster hit, especially when our senses are filled with the cinema's big screen and dynamic sound that draws us right into the action and takes us away to worlds we've only dreamed of. Well, wouldn't it be nice if we could experience movies that way every time and anytime we wanted and right at home? Well, that's what home theater is about, and much more. Each year, over 2 million home theaters are installed, taking advantage of an astounding variety of movies available on television, videotapes, and laserdisc.
When you release a feature film, we know that the domestic theatrical box office is, a commercial. It's the trailer for what's going to happen in home video.
Bigger and better television pictures are available for almost every budget, and today's smart TVs, coupled with a remote control, make access to many programs easier than ever. But perhaps the greatest revolution in home entertainment is in sound. No longer does your TV stand alone from your hi-fi system. The incredible sound that makes us part of the action in the movie theater is available at home in the form of surround sound.
Surround sound for the listener brings the theater experience into the home. I think that's the most important thing. I think that when people in America figure out how inexpensive relatively it is to put surround sound in their home, theaters are going to have to be working a lot harder to be sure their experience is better than what you can get in the house.
As the new technology turns more people on to home entertainment, many have turned their imaginations loose on their home theater environment. New furniture is being designed to complement the home theater in styles to suit your individual tastes. Some furniture even comes complete with equipment and financing. Others have custom designed their media rooms, building in recessed speakers, retractable TV projectors and projection screens, and remote controls to dim lights and close window shades, all in your own home. As more of us spend evenings at home, your investment in a home theater might just be the best investment you make. The simple definition of home theater is the great experience you get when you combine a good story with a great picture and multi-channel sound right in your own home. Now, what you do with your home theater system is strictly up to your imagination. But the best news is you can get home theater equipment in just about any size, shape, or price range. And we're going to show you several different options. Hopefully one will be exactly what you're looking for. Now, in this program, we're going to show you how home theater works, how Dolby Labs helps get the excitement that the filmmaker created into the movie and into your home video. Then we'll show you all the ingredients, what equipment you'll need for your home theater system. Then we'll tell you how to buy it, how to talk to that salesman so that you get exactly what you need. Then we'll tell you how to set it up, get it going, and some of the enhancements you can add to your home theater. To understand home theater, you have to understand where it originally came from, the movie theater. Now, a great movie theater is one that has a big, clear picture and multiple channels of sound in an ideal setting. Now, with over 20,000 Dolby stereo theaters, there's probably one in your neighborhood that you've been to, and they're easy to recognize. All you have to do is look for the speakers along the side walls and along the back wall. And it's the multiple channels of sound that really bring you into the action. It's Dolby that brings that sound into the theater. So, how does it all work? For the movie palaces of the past, mono, one channel of sound, just wasn't grand enough. So multiple channels of sound were developed, but they were often unreliable or unaffordable.
Prior to Dolby Stereo coming along, there were not very many standardized procedures and playback procedures in place in the film industry. One of the things that Dolby Stereo endeavored to do and did quite successfully was to create a set of standards and playback criteria for the theatrical industry, which in essence have now become the de facto standard for the home as well.
Working within that Dolby standard, sound technicians combine the many sources of sound from dialogue, music, and sound effects and mix them into 4 channels that a Dolby stereo encoding device then combines into 2 channels of sound that can be easily imprinted right onto the film itself. Virtually every major movie made in the last 10 years has been recorded in Dolby Stereo. That's thousands of titles so far. In the movie theater projection booth, a decoder reads those 2 encoded channels and divides them back into the 4 channels of sound that the filmmaker created. 3 of the 4 channels are then distributed to speakers behind the movie screen, left, center, and right. The 4th channel of sound is sent to smaller speakers placed along the side and back walls of the theater, surrounding the audience. Now, when the Dolby Stereo soundtrack gets copied over onto video cassette or laser disc, the Dolby surround encoding goes right along for the ride. And the same thing happens when you watch the movie broadcast on a stereo TV or cable channel. Now, when you buy a videotape, or pre-recorded cassette, or compact disc, or laser disc, you should be able to see the Dolby Surround logo right there on the package. Or you can look for it at the beginning of a TV broadcast or in the end credits of a film. So what are you going to need for your home theater? Well, of course, you're going to need those movies or television programs, and reception and playback equipment, a great picture, a Dolby Surround decoder amplifier, and speakers. Well, now let's talk for a moment about the many programs that you can enjoy in your home theater. Besides the movies on Laserdisc and videotape, the newest and hottest video games are in surround sound, as well as primetime television programs.
I think the benefits of surround are that you will be more intimate with the show. You will feel just being closer, like with Northern, of being in the bar, because you're surrounded by voices, textures, you know, everything going on in the bar. It's not just in front of you, it's all around you. Same thing with outdoor scenes. What we try to do in outdoor scenes is just basically surround the viewer with the feeling of lush nature.
Plus, for music lovers, there are hundreds of Dolby Surround CDs from many of your favorite artists.
Listening to the surround sound playback of our concert is rather like actually being there. It is a virtual reality, and I think that's the nice thing about surround sound. It has the possibility of putting you in the place, in the space in which things took place, and you experience it as if you were there.
So now let's talk about how Dolby Surround programs come into your home theater. Obviously, your TV is a convenient source with programs it gets from a broadcast antenna signal, a cable TV signal, and a satellite signal that can bring in even more channels with great digital stereo sound. But probably the most popular sources for your home theater are your VCR player or your Laserdisc player for the movies that you rent or buy. But don't forget your CD player, your cassette player, or your stereo FM tuner are all sources. The important thing to remember is that all of your sources have to be stereo in order to get the encoded surround programming. Okay, now let's talk about your great TV picture. Today's big screen TVs, both front and rear projection, are very advanced from those early fuzzy pictures that you could only see from one position in the room. They can truly give you the big screen movie experience. But for most of us, a good quality TV with a 27-inch screen is adequate for most size dens or family rooms. It depends on how big the room is and how far away you'll be sitting. Now that we have our programs and picture covered, we have to have the equipment to decode and distribute the sound, just like the movie theater. Now, there are 2 types of Dolby Surround decoders. The original one is called simply Dolby Surround. It's like listening to your existing stereo with an additional surround channel coming from 2 speakers behind you. It's effective, but the size of the best listening area is somewhat limited. Now, the more advanced decoder is called Dolby Surround ProLogic. ProLogic gives you the same performance as the method used in the Dolby Stereo Theater. It's the more advanced technology, and part of the benefit comes from that extra speaker you'll add for the center channel. You'll find that you can choose to have a decoder with either analog or digital processing circuits. Now, you'll find that it's not so much a matter of quality as which one has the kind of extra features that you might want. We'll talk about some of those extra features in just a moment. Now, there are several ways to get your Dolby Surround decoder. Some newer TVs have a Dolby Surround ProLogic decoder and all the power amps that you need built in. Even the speakers may come along, making it a complete package. Or you can connect your existing stereo receiver to a standalone surround decoder amplifier. Your stereo receiver powers your left and right channel speakers, and your decoder amplifier powers your center and surround channel speakers. The most popular way to get Dolby Surround is with an audio-video or AV receiver to take the place of your old stereo. It has all the power amps you need built in and can handle all your sources and make adjustments from a single remote. And finally, purists might opt for a standalone decoder and 4 separate power amplifiers. Now, this gives you the greatest flexibility and performance, but also the greatest opportunity for high cost. You'll have to make that decision for yourself. Well, now that we have our surround sound decoded, we have to have the speakers to hear that sound. And of course, you can get a set of speakers especially designed for home theater, or to your existing stereo speakers, you can add another speaker for the center channel and 2 more speakers for the surround channel. There's also the option of a subwoofer. This provides the big bass sound that's so important in the movies. Now, it's an extra speaker to add, but it also gives you the option so that your other speakers can be small, less obtrusive speakers. Okay, why don't we take a look at a few home theater options? Now, this is probably the simplest way to have home theater. This television has a Dolby Surround Pro Logic decoder and all the necessary power amplifiers built right into it. So you take your sources, like this VCR right here, and just plug them into the TV. TV also has center channel speakers, as well as a woofer to provide rich bass sound built right in also. Now, all we had to do up front was add small bookshelf speakers for our left and our right channel. Our surround channel speakers are the exact same bookshelf speakers we used in our front left and right channels. If you'll notice, it's placed on the side wall just above our listening area. And even though there's only 1 channel, it's 2 speakers on either side of the listening audience to give you more even coverage and a balanced sound. Because everything is built into this system, make sure you listen to it before you make a purchase. Make sure it's loud enough and deep enough for your tastes, because there's going to be very little room for modification. Now, I want to mention something about the TV. This is a rear screen projection TV, and along with its cousin, the front screen projection TV, if you're going to buy either one of those, you need to take into consideration the amount of light in your room. Both of them play best in a darker room. All right, let's take a look at another option. Now, in this home theater room, we've used our existing stereo equipment along with a standalone Dolby Surround Pro Logic decoder amplifier. Here's our decoder amplifier, and here's our stereo receiver. Now, our television and our VCR, all of our sources are all hooked in here together. The decoder amplifier has the power for our center channel and our surround channels at the back of the room. And our receiver, stereo receiver, has the amplification for our left and right channels. Now, our left and right speakers are the ones that were used with the stereo system. They're full range, have lots of good bass capabilities. Our center channel speaker is one that we got of the same brand and type as our left and right, so that they'll all match for a balanced sound. But you'll notice it's smaller. It doesn't have as much bass capabilities, but of course that'll be taken care of by our left and right speaker working in conjunction with our decoder amplifier. Our center channel speaker is right here on top of the television. That's where you want it, on top of the TV or below the TV. But if you're going to place it right on top of the TV, you have to make sure that your center channel speaker is magnetically shielded. Otherwise, it could distort the picture. Our surround channel speakers are 2 more like we used in our center channel. And when you're adding on speakers, again, it's very important to make them the same brand and type so that they'll all have a matched sound tonally. Now, we have plenty of power in our receiver to power our full range left and right speakers, so we have less power in our decoder amplifier because we don't need as much for the surrounds and the center channel since they're not handling a whole lot of bass. All right, let's go take a look now at another home theater option. Now, this room uses what is probably the most popular way to get Dolby surround sound. It has an AV, or audio-video receiver. It takes the place of your old stereo receiver, and it has Dolby Surround Pro Logic as well as all the amplifiers for your multi-channel sound and more built right in. Now, most AV receivers come with a remote control, which is a great option because with this one remote, you can make all the adjustments to your system, like change the channel or switch from CD player to cassette player or raise or lower the volume of any one of the components without having to leave your chair. Now, the speakers for this system are a matched set especially designed for home theater, which is the way to go if you're starting from scratch, because then you know you're going to get a balanced system. And you can do that for as low as $800, going as high as, well, I guess the sky's the limit. Now, our right channel speaker over here And our center channel speaker and our left channel speaker are concealed behind the perforated doors in this cabinet. Now, as you can see, they're bookshelf speakers, all three across the front, as well as our two surrounds. Now, because they're bookshelf speakers, they don't have a lot of bass capability, so we've added the option of a subwoofer to this system. Let's talk about power for just a minute. This particular AV receiver has equal power in every channel, 60 watts in this particular case. Now, the reason we chose that configuration is each one of our 5 speakers, left, right, center, and our 2 surrounds, are identical in size. Our subwoofer has its own power. We just had to make sure there was an output for it in the back of our AV receiver. Now, there are other power options for your AV receiver. Why don't we go take a look at another one right now? Now, this home theater has a different power option in our AV receiver, and that's because of the speakers we've chosen in this particular configuration. You'll notice that our left and right channel speakers are full range speakers, therefore they need more power than our surrounds and our center channel speaker, which are much smaller. You'll notice also that our center channel speaker is sitting right on top of the television, and that's because it's magnetically shielded and it won't distort the picture. Now that you've seen many of the basic options available for home theater, it's time to talk about going out and buying your system. Now, for many of you, that'll mean going to the store and doing it yourself. We'll talk about that in just a moment. But some of you may want to seek help in the design and installation of your system.
Our client is someone who's very unsure of what to do. They know a little bit about home theater, they've heard the term, but they're not sure what home theater is. So we choose the components for them. We go to their home, we look at their living space that the home theater system's going into. We install it for them properly so they get the most enjoyment out of the system. And we want to make sure that it's easy to use because we realize it's a family product and we want the whole family to use it and enjoy it.
Now remember, if you use a designer installer, you're going to have to pay him a fee in addition to the price of the equipment. So be sure to get a breakdown from him as to his labor and fees in addition to the cost of the equipment when you compare prices. You're generally going to pay a little bit more for the equipment than you would if you went to a discount chain store, but you're paying for his expertise, so he should be willing to help you service the equipment later. Now, if you're going to go to the store yourself, you have the choice of going to an independent audio-video dealer or to one of the discount chain stores. An independent audio-video retailer means the dealer is a specialist and usually sells higher quality equipment. He generally knows quite a lot about the subject. This dealer should be able to show you demonstrations of how the equipment works and sounds. And don't be afraid to ask this dealer for guidance on setting up your system. Now, if you're a confident do-it-yourselfer and want the best price, try one of the larger superstores. But remember, know what you're going in to buy, as the salespeople at these stores are not always as knowledgeable because they have so many different items in their inventory. For those of you buying your equipment yourself, let's create a little checklist of things to remember. When buying a TV or VCR, make sure it has real stereo capabilities so that you can receive and play back that surround encoded material. Now, when buying a decoder or an AV receiver, make sure it has all the inputs you need for all the sources you're going to have. Your VCR, your TV, your CD player, your Laserdisc player, or anything you're going to buy in the future. Also, you have to consider power. What size room is it going to be in? What's your individual taste? And also, what are the speakers you're going to be using with that system? Now, if you don't buy speakers made specially for home theater, and you're going to be adding speakers to your existing system, try to get ones that match tonally for a balanced sound. And listen and compare. Listen to the program material you'll be using at home and compare speakers at the same volume. Also try to hear them at different volume levels, high as well as low. I want to mention a few issues you're going to run into regarding surround sound. When you're buying your AV receiver or decoder, you might see the initials DSP. Well, that stands for Digital Signal Processing, and it's an electronic device developed by the manufacturer to recreate acoustical environments. It works in both regular stereo and Dolby Surround and gives you the feeling of being at a stadium or a concert hall or a movie theater. Now, it's not part of the Dolby Surround process, so while it might be a lot of fun, the quality and effect can vary from a manufacturer to a different manufacturer. Also, when buying a TV, you may see that it has surround sound built in. Well, if it doesn't say Dolby Surround built in, it's not part of the process we've been talking about. It's just a device that alters the existing sound, and the quality and effect may vary. You may also see the initials THX or hear about THX sound. Well, this is sort of a seal of approval for cinema and home theater equipment from one of Lucasfilm's companies. It's the Dolby Surround process with a few equipment embellishments approved by THX. So as you decide how you're going to use your home theater, whether it's just for movies or for television or music, you'll decide which of these are important to you. 2 final reminders about shopping. First, you should get a demonstration of the products that you're considering. You should see it and hear it at the volume and with the kind of program material that you're going to be seeing and listening to at home. And if the store that you go to can't or won't give you a demonstration, maybe you should go to a different store. And secondly, try to plan and choose all of the elements of your system together. Because as we've told you, the kind of speakers that you choose will affect how much power amplification you're going to need. Okay, now that you have all of your equipment, it's time to set it up in your home. Once you've brought all your equipment into the house, start by placing the TV where you want it in the room, which is pretty much a matter of your own taste. Then it's usually most convenient to place all of your equipment, like AV receiver, VCR, and CD player, next to your TV, so your remote controls can operate most effectively. Next, connect your sources to your AV receiver by using the connector cords that come with the equipment. Plug left and right audio out from your CD player into where it's marked CD in on your AV receiver. Your cassette tape deck needs a cord for playback and record, so simply plug left and right tape deck out to receiver in and vice versa. Your connector cord for the VCR has 3 connections, the third for video. Generally, it's color-coded, yellow for video, red and white for the 2 audio channels. Again, one cord goes from your VCR out to the AV receiver in for playback, and of course, you'll have another connection working the opposite for recording. Next, place your center channel speaker. Place your left and right speakers where they fit best in the room, as you can adjust the balance for the best sound later. Remember that the left and right will be your speakers for regular stereo listening. To wire your speakers, a good 16 or 18 gauge wire will work fine. An inexpensive wire stripping tool will help make it easier, but you may have to practice just a few times. Only strip enough wire that will fit exactly into your connectors. Make sure the same strand or half of your wire goes from the positive or red connector in the receiver to the positive connector in the speaker and vice versa. Place your surround sound speakers behind and above where you'll be sitting for the best results. If you have a subwoofer, you can place it just about anywhere you want, as the sound is not directional. But remember, the closer you place your subwoofer or any speaker to a corner, the more bass you'll get. Now it's time to sit back and relax, turn the power on, and enjoy your favorite surround programs in your home theater. So now you know what home theater is and what the options are for the system that's right for you. Now we have a special nuts and bolts portion of this program coming up with some fine detail for consideration when putting your system together. However, if you just want to know some more information on home theater, we'd like to suggest the following sources. Thanks for watching our Consumer Guide to Home Theater. I'm Michael Young, and I hope that you discover home theater for yourself. It's an exciting entertainment value that the entire family can enjoy. Bye-bye, everybody.
Don't go away. Remember, there's a special Nuts and Bolts of Home Theater section coming up next.
Welcome to our nuts and bolts portion of the program. Now that you know a little bit more about what home theater is, I want to give you a few tips and techniques to help you set everything up right and get it sounding and looking just right. The first consideration is your room. Now, your room is as important as the components you buy for your system, so start by determining a basic room arrangement. Think about the big pieces, namely the video screen, the speakers, and the seating area. To do this, you're going to need a tape measure and a few markers and some imagination. Now, the size of the screen is the key to the whole layout because larger screens look better when they're viewed from greater distances. So first, measure the width of your TV screen. Now imagine having a square that's 4 times the screen width on each side. Use markers to place the boundaries of the square in the center of your home theater room, leaving a few feet of clearance around it to the nearest walls. Well, now you can easily position all the key components of the system. Place your video screen even with the front edge of the square, centered from left to right. Place the left and right speakers at the 2 front corners of the square. By the way, for bookshelf speakers, try to use the recommended stands so that you get the proper height for your speaker. Floor standing speakers are already designed for proper height for the seated viewer. All right, now center the sofa along the rear of the square so that when you're seated, your head will be right along the back line. Finally, the 2 surround speakers would also be even with the back edge of the square, mounted up on the side walls, one on either side of the seating area. Now, even though you already guessed that the center speaker needs to be very close to the video screen, you have to decide if it should go above it or below it. You have to balance the need to keep the screen at a comfortable viewing height and the need to keep the center speaker about the same height as the left and right speakers. So draw an imaginary line across the front of the 3 speakers' high-frequency drivers. Choose the position above or below the screen for the center channel speaker that puts all of those speakers in the straightest line. That's going to give you the most natural imaging when sounds pan across the front from left to right. And don't forget, a regular speaker that's too close to a television tube will distort the picture, so make sure that your center channel speaker is magnetically shielded. Now, while this takes care of the basic room layout, there are variations that may be necessary. For example, if there's a fireplace in the corner of your room, you may have to move one of the front speakers a little closer to or a little further away from the screen. And this will not hurt the performance very noticeably. You may also want to move part of your system, like the couch, closer to a wall to better fit the design of your room. If this is the case, try to move everything else proportionally. For example, if you move the couch back, widen the left and right speakers, because as long as you stay close to the square idea, you're going to be fine. Okay, now let's talk about some options for surround speakers. We know that surround is a single channel, and until now we've talked about 2 speakers for this channel because that's what's normal. But the number of surround speakers needed for your system depends on the depth of your viewing area. There are 2 primary goals for the surround channel that seem to be at odds with each other, but each is very important. You want to create a wide, diffuse cloud of sound around the whole seating area for ambient effects like wind or rain, and yet there should be enough directionality to the surround sound when special effects happen, like a plane or a spaceship flying over your head. Well, the general rule is to place or hang your surround speakers above your ear level, to the sides, or even slightly behind you. The speakers should be aimed towards each other and not directly at you. This helps provide a good balance between direct sounds and reflected sounds off the opposite walls. Now, the reflected sounds promote a sense of spatiality and diffusion. The direct sounds support specific directional effects. The back walls and ceiling can also be used to obtain the necessary reflections. And these methods work in many typical rooms. But if your room is non-reflective due to drapes or partially missing walls, you may benefit from special speakers designed to provide a high percentage of reflected sound specifically for surround applications. One is a single box with several small speakers designed to bounce the surround sound off the ceiling and walls. They are convenient to place on a shelf on the back wall, and they sound great in rooms having side walls to support the reflectivity. Another possibility would be dipole surrounds. Now, these types of speakers require careful placement to be effective due to their unusual radiation pattern. They produce very little sound from the sides facing you. Most of the sound is directed towards the front and back of the room. Now, while directionality is not their strong suit, they can do a good job of enhancing spatiality in rooms without enough reflective surfaces. Other systems use more than just 2 speakers for the surround channel. Some use 3, 4, as many as 6 small speakers hung around the listening area. This is called an array, and it's similar to what's done in theaters. However, this should only be done when the seating area is very deep, like in a theater. Well, now let's consider the subwoofers. Subwoofers are speakers that basically do one thing: bass. And there are 2 kinds: self-powered subwoofers, which have a built-in amplifier, and passive subwoofers, which are driven by the amplifier that powers your left and right channels. Now, many AV receivers provide a subwoofer output right on the back panel. If yours has one, plugging in your subwoofer is easy. If not, there is an easy answer. Every ProLogic decoder has a normal center mode that removes the low bass from the center speaker and sends it to the left and right speakers. Well, you can take advantage of this by connecting your subwoofer to the left and right speaker output. By the way, there's no need to worry about low bass in the surround channel. Now, how do you get the best sounding bass? Well, bass is non-directional, which means that you can put a subwoofer almost anywhere in the room and not tell where it is just by listening. Well, this may lead you to believe that it doesn't matter where you put it, but that's not completely true. You see, placement can have a large effect on the quality and the amount of bass in the room. Since sound bounces off the walls, these reflections can add or subtract to the sound coming directly to you. So how they come together makes a difference. A subwoofer out in the open will give you minimum bass and minimum reflection. Against a wall, it will give you more, and in the corner, it will give you the most. Although placing the subwoofer in the corner of the room gives you the most bass, it does not necessarily mean the best. You want to smooth bass out at all frequencies, not one-note thumping type bass. So you'll have to experiment with moving your subwoofer around to find where the best bass is. You can try putting the subwoofer in a variety of places, to the side of you, possibly hidden. Some people use their subwoofers as coffee tables, but we recommend keeping it at the front, somewhere between the left and the right speakers. Now, after we get our system up and running, we'll give you some guidelines to finding the best place for your subwoofer. Now that you've placed the parts of the system that require specific locations, you can place the rest of your components. Most people choose cabinets or shelves at the front of the room near the screen to allow easy access and proper operation of remote controls. If you want to hide components like a VCR, AV receiver, or laser disc player inside a cabinet with closed doors, you may need a separate remote control eye. Many of today's receivers have this option, but you'll have to check with your dealer to make sure that you can use one with your equipment. Now, once you've established places for all of your equipment, you can begin connecting it together. Let's start with your speaker wires. Speaker wire comes in all shapes, sizes, and prices, from zip cord you buy at your local hardware store to high-end audiophile cables that can literally cost up to thousands of dollars for wire. And there's many schools of thought about how important speaker wire is to the sound quality of a system. Some think it's a world of difference, some think it doesn't matter at all. But it's safe to say that you should use a reasonably good quality wire for your home theater. Now, one consideration about speaker wire is the size or gauge of the wire. Now, the gauge is described by a number: 18 gauge, 16, 14, and so on. The smaller size of the wire, the larger the number. So, for example, 18 gauge wire is smaller than 14 gauge. 14 gauge, by the way, is usually enough. But remember, the longer the runs of wire, as in the case of going to your surround speakers, it'll require a larger size. Speaker cables should be chosen so as not to noticeably affect the quality of sound. Now, thinner gauge cables like 16 and 18 are often inappropriate for longer distance runs because resistance in the cable can interact adversely with the amplifier or speaker. Hiding wire can be actually fairly easy. The biggest problem seems to be hiding wires to the surround speakers. But here are a few ideas and ways to hide it. You can run the wire under the carpet if you're replacing or installing new carpet. Also, avoid running it across doorways and hallways subject to heavy traffic. You don't want to create a safety hazard. Now, when running your speaker wire along the walls, start at the speaker and with a straight length leading from the floor up to the speaker. After the connections are made, run the wires along the walls and gently push them with a screwdriver in between the carpet and the baseboard. You can also drill a small hole in the wall at the bottom and at the speaker, then fish the wire through the wall. Now, this may be a lesson in patience, but the reward is a clean-looking installation, so it's well worth the effort. You can also hide wire behind the baseboard of the wall or get plastic wire channels from your local lighting and electrical store to go along the bottom and up to the speaker. This can be placed discreetly in corners and painted the same color as your wall to blend in. You can even find flat wire that's built into tape, which can easily be attached to the wall and then painted over. All right, so let's hook up those speakers now. To do this, you need to determine what kind of connection is on the back of the speaker. Then strip the ends of the speaker wire with a wire stripper and attach the proper connector if required. Well, there are two kinds of speaker wire connections commonly found on the back of speakers. Spring terminals, these are the most common, where you push and hold down a lever, then you twist the stripped wire to avoid wild strands, and then push it into the hole. Then you let go of the lever, clamping the wire in place. And then there's 5-way binding posts, which offer several ways of making the connection. Banana plugs, which are attached to the wire with solder or screws, allowing you to simply plug your speaker wires right in. They come in single banana plugs, by the way, and dual banana plugs. These are the best and easiest solution if your speakers can accommodate them. You can also attach spade lugs to the wire or insert the bare wires and tighten them down. Remember, wire has two leads, a positive and a negative, and the leads must be hooked up the same way at both the amplifier and the speaker, or they'll be out of phase and your system will not sound just right. When your speakers are all in phase, that means that the speaker drivers are all moving in the same direction at the same time. Now, your speaker wire will usually have markings on one of the two leads, like printing as you see here, or it'll be different colors. On zip cord, one side usually has a rib in the jacket. And this will help you keep the connections straight and get them to the right place. Pick one or the other for the positive and stick with it for your entire installation. Now, at the end of this program, we'll include some test signals to help you ensure that your system is set up properly. Okay, now that you have your speakers set up, your video screen in place, and your wires run from your speaker to your Dolby Surround television, AV receiver, or power amplifiers, you can plug in all of your sources. And we covered that in the main section. So if you need a reference, rewind the tape and review that section again, or consult your manual that came with the equipment. Now, the final connection you'll have to make in your system is to connect the video output of your receiver to your television so that you can see the picture generated by your VCR or Laserdisc player. Now, most AV receivers will have an output labeled Monitor Out. Simply connect the video cable between the monitor output of the receiver and the video input of your TV, and you're ready to go. Now, we should mention that those of you using a TV with a built-in decoder may be tempted to use the RF output from your VCR or Laserdisc to connect to your TV. Now, while this will give you a good picture, it will not give you the stereo audio required for the decoder in all cases. So you'll need to connect the right and left channels of audio from the source to your TV. Now, in most cases, the quality of video will be better if you also connect the video out of the source to the video in of the TV and use the video instead of using the RF signal for viewing. Now, one important rule of thumb here, audio and video cables look very similar. In fact, they can use the same kind of connector. But don't let this fool you into thinking that they're of the same type. Video signals are very different and require their own special kind of cable. Video cables will work fine for audio, but video runs longer than a few feet made with audio cables may significantly degrade your video signal. So use the right cable for that job. All right, at this point, we're ready to make good sound. Now, your system hookup may vary slightly from what I've described here, but this should give you a good start. Now, there are only a few adjustments you have to make to your Dolby Surround decoder to get it sounding right, and you should only have to make those adjustments once, unless you change your components of your system. So as we discussed during our discussion on subwoofers, all Dolby Surround Pro Logic decoders have a center mode control. The three center mode options are Phantom, Normal, and Wideband. The Phantom mode allows you to use your Dolby Surround decoder right out of the box if you haven't set up your center channel speaker. Now, you shouldn't neglect the center channel. That's one of the major advantages of Pro Logic. But if you can't set the center channel speaker up, you can still use the system. Now, the other two modes, Normal and Wideband, depend on the type of center channel speaker you have and your subwoofer connection if you have one. If your center speaker is relatively small compared to your left and right speakers, use Normal mode, because the bass below 100 hertz from the center speaker is then sent to the left and the right speakers where it's reproduced more effectively. Now, if you have a full range speaker in the center and your subwoofer is not connected to the left and right speakers, use wideband mode, sometimes just called wide mode. Now, newer surround decoders use a function called auto balance. It's used to correct for variances in level between the left and right channels of program sources. And if your unit has auto balance, you don't need to do anything. The adjustment is being done for you. But if your unit doesn't have auto balance, you'll want to set the balance. And you may want to perform this adjustment each time you play something in your home theater to set up the decoder to the individual program. The easiest way is to disable your center channel speaker, either by unplugging it or with a control on the unit if available. Play some material with dialogue and adjust the control for minimum dialogue leakage from the left and right speakers. After you've made the adjustment, be sure to turn the center channel back on. Now, there's only two other adjustments you need to make on your Pro Logic decoder. The first one is delay time to the surround speakers. Dolby Surround uses a slight amount of audio delay to the surround speakers to help localize sounds coming from the front. And you're going to find this adjustment on your Dolby Surround decoder labeled something like delay time or surround delay. Now, on some Dolby Surround decoders, the delay time is not adjustable, and in that case, the delay will be preset at 20 milliseconds, which is a good setting for most rooms. But if the delay time on your surround decoder is adjustable, you can decide the proper setting by measuring the distance from the front speakers to your seating position in feet. Then measure the distance from the surround speakers to your seating position and subtract it from the first measurement. Add 10 to this answer to give the proper delay in milliseconds. In any case, 15 milliseconds is the shortest available time, and 30 is the longest. Okay, now we're ready to make some noise, literally. Every Dolby Pro Logic Surround decoder includes a special test signal that comes from each channel of your Dolby Surround system separately to help you properly adjust the level to each channel. Now, most decoders cycle this signal through each channel automatically, left, center, right, surround, and then back again. Adjusting the level of each channel is really very simple. Sit in your listening position and set the volume control at a comfortable listening level. Now turn on the test signal. On most decoders, these functions can be done right with the remote control. As the noise cycles from channel to channel, adjust the left, right, center, and surround levels until all the channels sound the same loudness. It's as easy as that. Most people can get good results by just adjusting the levels by ear, but if you really want to be accurate, electronics stores sell a simple, inexpensive meter that will eliminate uncertainty. With the test signal on, the meter will measure the volume of sound, and you can set the level of each channel so that all of them read the same level on the meter. Now, once your system is calibrated, you shouldn't need to adjust it again unless you change the components or move the system around. We've included some special test signals to help you make sure your system is working, balanced, and set in Pro Logic mode. The first signal is to help you check the phase of the left and center speakers in your system. As I speak, you should hear my voice as a focus point between the left and center speaker. The image should be stable and clear. If my voice is fuzzy or diffused, one of the speakers is out of phase. The next signal is to help you check the phase of the center and right speakers in your system. As I speak, you should hear my voice as a focused point between the center and right speakers. The image should be stable and clear. If my voice is fuzzy or diffuse, one of the speakers is out of phase. If one of the speakers was out of phase in the above two tests, you can now figure out which one. If left center was out and center right was okay, the left speaker is out of phase. Check the left speaker wiring. If left center was okay and center right was out, the right speaker is out of phase. Check the right speaker wiring. If both tests showed out of phase results, the center speaker is out of phase. So check the center speaker wiring. The next signal is for balancing the individual channels of your system. This signal is just like the test signal of your Pro Logic decoder. As with the internal signal, adjust the volume level of each channel until they all sound the same loudness or read the same level on your level meter if you've got one. Well, now that we have our system set up, it's time to find that best location for the subwoofer. There's really a very simple and clever way to find that location. Attach enough wire to the subwoofer to place it where you will sit. Now play some music or a tape that you're familiar with and that has some good bass content. And while that system's playing, walk around the room to the different places you might want to put the subwoofer. As you do, you'll notice the level and quality of the bass changing. Remember, you're looking for the spot that has the smoothest, deepest, and tightest sounding bass, not the loudest. Now, once you find that spot in your room where the bass sounds balanced and best to you, that's the spot to place your subwoofer, because now your seating area will sound just like it did in that spot. Okay, well that's it. You're all set. It's time to enjoy your system.